about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know.
Hey everyone, Dusty here. Today I'm going to give you my top 3 beginner triathlon swim tips. So if you're a beginner triathlete or looking to get into triathlon, hopefully some of these tips will help you to get started. Alright, my first tip is get comfortable in the water. I would say for a lot of beginner triathletes, just feeling super uncomfortable about being in the water is a huge hurdle a lot of people have to overcome, especially once you start swimming in races that have an open water swim start. Just having that mass of people can make a triathlete feel very, very uneasy. If you're going to become a triathlete, you're going to have to deal with people touching your toes in the swim if you're doing a pool race, or people passing you, or even when you start getting in open water, people are going to hit you in the head, swim over top of you because they're not swimming the same direction as you. And this is something that you're eventually going to have to get comfortable with, and one way to get comfortable with this is to practice it. So take a friend or join a triathlon group and practice swimming down a length all together. You're gonna bump into each other, you're gonna touch each other, and that's okay. And if you're gonna do a race with an open water swim, practice getting in the open water with others and have someone who's done it before swim over top of you. It's better to freak out and have a panic attack in training than for it to happen on race day. So get comfortable in the water as soon as you can if it's something that you're a little bit uneasy about as a beginner triathlete. Alright, and tip number 2 is to get help and try to film yourself swimming in a pool. So if you're new to swimming, you haven't had much for swim instruction, go to a master's group and have someone pick apart your stroke, or just someone in general who you trust that they know what they're talking about when it comes to swimming. Have them watch you swim for a while and then ask for pointers on what they saw, what was good, what was maybe not so good. Maybe some drills that they could give you to help fix some of those flaws. And then if you can, try to get some footage of you swimming, not only above the water, but underwater footage as well. And being able to watch yourself under the water can be super valuable, and you might notice things that you didn't think you were doing. Like for myself, for example, when I first started swimming, my arms would keep crossing the center line, and it didn't feel like they were until I actually saw myself swimming underwater. And then it just all clicked. I was thinking, oh, I am actually crossing the center line with my stroke. So I did some drills. I was just mindful of it after seeing myself, and now I enter a lot more straight on and I don't cross the center line. So that's just one example of how underwater footage helped me. It's helped me in many more ways than that. So if you do get some underwater footage, maybe sit down with someone who can, again, pick apart your stroke and notice some of the flaws in your swim stroke. And you can slow down the footage or stop the footage at certain points, and they can explain things, and it's very, very insightful to be able to watch yourself swimming underwater. Alright, swim tip number 3 is swim frequency. So let's just say you're a beginner triathlete and you want to swim, just for example, 8 kilometers a week. I would way rather see that triathlete swimming 8K a week broken into 5 swims versus doing 2 big 4K swims. So getting in the water more, or swim frequency, is super valuable to us in that we keep the feel of the water high. So as I'm sure many of you know, swimming is something that feels very strange to us. We weren't made to swim. And just the more touches that you can get in the pool, the more often you can get in the pool and keep that swim stroke ingrained in your muscle memory and in your head, the more natural that it's going to feel over time. And if you're a beginner triathlete, this is something that is super important. So for myself, I try to swim actually 6 days a week, and they're not all huge 5K swims. Sometimes I'm only in the pool for 30 minutes, and that's just to keep my swim frequency high, and so that I don't have a full day in between each of my swims, because I lose that feeling for the water quite fast. Alright, and lastly, I'm going to throw in 2 bonus tips as well. So bonus tip number 1 would be practice your sighting. So if you're going to start swimming in races that have open water swims, you're going to have to practice your sighting. And you want to practice this for a couple of reasons. Number 1, when you raise your head out of the water, you don't want to raise your whole head out of the water. You just want to raise it to eye level and either go back in or turn to the side and back down. When you lift your head too far out of the water, your hips are actually going to sink and you're going to be swimming through the water more vertically. And that's not very efficient, and it's going to slow you down quite a bit. And secondly, we practice sighting on a specific object, typically a buoy on race day, just so that we stay on course and so that we don't have to swim extra. There's nothing worse than you've put in all this training and time in the pool and you've gotten comfortable just to enter an Olympic distance race, which is a 1,500 meter swim, but you forgot to practice your sighting and you swam off course and swam an extra 200 meters. So practice sighting. If you swim off course, you're gonna have a much slower swim time, and it's just something that needs to be taken care of, and you can practice it in swimming. You can practice it not only in the pool, but you can practice it in open water swim training as well. All right, and bonus tip number 2 is for those of you that want to get faster with your swimming, is to start doing intervals if it's not something that you've already been incorporating into your training. This is kind of a pet peeve of mine, but I see triathletes all the time who show up at the pool and yes, of course they want to get faster, and all they do is hop in the pool and swim for 45 minutes straight, usually at the same speed, or they get slower as the swim goes on, and they wonder why they never get faster in the water. One of the big reasons for this is they're not doing intervals. So that pace that swimmer was swimming at for the, say, 45 minutes straight is more or less what they're going to swim on race day. And you need to do intervals that are not only slower than that pace, but much, much faster as well. So typically intervals will range anywhere from 50 yards to 50 meters, all the way up to 300-400 meters at a time. I would recommend that you almost never just hop in the water and swim for 45 to an hour straight. If you want to do something like a longer swim, you could go do that in the open water to practice, or you could do big sets in the pool, like 500 meter intervals. So for myself, I would say the bulk of my training, especially after warm up and cool down, all my main sets, usually almost all of them are anywhere from 50 meters up to 200-300 meters. So I do lots and lots of 50s, I do lots and lots of 100s, and I do a few 200s and 300s as well. So these aren't long intervals, and it's not like I'm resting for 2 minutes between all of them. Sometimes I only get 5 seconds rest and I push off again. So definitely start doing intervals if you've just been one of those swimmers who hops in the pool and just swims straight. And that's it. Those are some of my top swim tips for beginner triathletes. Hope some of those help you. If you have any questions about anything else swim related, just leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe for more everything running, triathlon, and nutrition related.